I never thought I'd say this, but I think my mom chose a man over her own son, and not just in the romantic, he's my new priority kind of way. I mean really chose him. Like, removed me from her will, stopped speaking to me, blocked me on Facebook, kind of chose him. And the worst part? It all started with an overcooked steak and a guy named Rick, who thinks he's a life coach because he once gave a TEDx talk at a Holiday Inn. But let me rewind. My name's Jason. I'm 32, single, and up until last month, I was living in a small but decent apartment about an hour from where I grew up. My relationship with my mom, Mary Ann, wasn't always perfect, but we were close. Like, Sunday dinner every week close. Like, she sends me random coupons for soup because she thinks I'm not eating enough kind of close. She raised me alone. My dad dipped when I was 6, and Marian took on everything. 2 jobs, PTA meetings, all the tough stuff. She sacrificed a lot for me. She never remarried, never really dated, at least not seriously. At least, not until Rick. I first heard about him during one of our weekly calls. You know the kind, just me boiling pasta, her on speaker, telling me about her neighbor's dog and how the lettuce at Trader Joe's just isn't what it used to be. So, I met someone, she said casually, like she was telling me the weather. You what? I met someone. His name is Rick. He works in motivational consulting. That already set off alarms in my head. Motivational consulting? That sounds like a made-up job for a guy who can't keep a real one. Oh, cool, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. Where'd you meet him? She chuckled. Believe it or not, the self-checkout at Safeway. Apparently, Rick had helped her scan a cantaloupe she couldn't get to register, told her she had kind eyes, and gave her his business card which read, in Comic Sans, no less, Rick Lancaster, Mindset Alchemist. It would have been funny, almost cute, if it had ended there. But it didn't. Suddenly, Rick was at every Sunday dinner. He brought his own spiritual condiments, which turned out to be 3 jars of homemade turmeric-infused salt. He monologued about quantum abundance while we tried to eat meatloaf. He called my mother goddess, so often it stopped being romantic and started sounding like a cult ritual. But fine. My mom was smiling more. She wore lipstick again. She signed her texts with emojis, for God's sake. If Rick made her happy, who was I to interfere? Until the steak night. It was a Saturday dinner, a one-off. I'd offered to come over and grill some steaks since the weather was decent. Mom seemed excited. Even bought those fancy potatoes she always pretends are for guests. But when I got there, Rick had already set up shop in the kitchen. He was wearing a kimono. I kid you not. A full-on silk kimono with dragons on it. Barefoot. Cooking tofu over a mini stovetop burner he brought in himself because, and I quote, "Animal flesh is toxic to the human spirit, bro." I laughed. Not to be rude, but because I genuinely thought he was joking. He wasn't. What are you doing? I asked, dropping my grocery bags on the counter. Rick looked up, grinning. Freeing your mother's chakras from bovine suffering. I brought steak. Mom loves steak. She used to love steak, he corrected, waving a spatula like a magic wand. Now she loves herself. At that point, I turned to Mom. Seriously? She looked guilty, but not apologetic. Jason, honey, she said gently, I'm just trying something new. Rick has shown me a different way of living. I feel lighter. Lighter? What the hell was she talking about? She was a steak and potatoes woman her whole life. She once sent back a Caesar salad because it didn't have enough bacon. Mom, come on. This guy sells sea moss gel on Etsy and calls it soul paste. Rick laughed. Haters are just confused admirers, my man. I ignored him. Mom, seriously, can we just have one normal dinner? That's when Rick stepped in, real slow and deliberate, placing a hand on my shoulder. I flinched. He said, your need for control is a trauma response, brother. I can help you with that. That was it. I pushed his hand off. Don't touch me. And that's when it happened. My mom, standing between the man who taught me how to ride a bike and the guy who believes water holds memory, chose Rick. Jason, she said quietly, I think you should go. I laughed, because what else could I do? Are you kicking me out? Over this guy? I think you should go, she repeated, firmer now. I left without another word. At first, I thought it was just a bad night. A weird situation. A one-off. It wasn't. The next week she didn't call. Then 2. Then I got a text. Jason, please respect my decision to live my life the way I choose. I need space. Okay. Fine. She's an adult. She can make her own choices, even stupid ones. But it got worse. I got a letter, yes, an actual letter 2 weeks later, from a lawyer. Apparently, my mother was restructuring her estate and wanted me to be informed. I had been officially removed from her will. All of it. The house. The investments. Even my grandmother's antique watch she promised me when I was 15. Gone. Guess who's the new sole beneficiary? That's right. Rick. Rick. Lancaster. Mindset alchemist. And I hadn't even heard the worst of it yet. I sat on my couch, letter in hand, rereading the same 2 sentences over and over like they might rearrange themselves into something sane. This notice is to inform you that your mother, Mary Ann Callahan, has amended her last will and testament. You are no longer listed as a beneficiary. No longer. Like I was an expired coupon. Like I'd somehow forfeited my family membership card because I refused to play along with a kimono-wearing, turmeric-huffing fake guru. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Mom, what the hell is this? Nothing. A day passed. Then 2. Then I got a message. Not from her, of course. From Rick. Yes, Rick. It was a selfie. Of him and my mother. Sitting on the porch where we used to drink iced tea together in summer. He was holding a green smoothie in one hand and flipping off the camera with the other. The caption read, "Let go of what no longer serves your higher self." My hands were shaking. I don't remember tossing the phone, but I heard the satisfying crack of it bouncing off the kitchen tile. For a solid 20 minutes, I just sat there. In silence. In that weird numb rage where your blood is boiling but your body's too tired to follow. I'd always thought my mom was grounded. Sharp. She worked in finance, for God's sake. Balanced spreadsheets like a wizard. Called astrology a con for bored housewives. Now she was reposting Rick's sunrise yoga photos with captions like, "Align your moon cycle with your financial destiny." What the hell happened to her? And then came the call. Not from Mom. Not from Rick. From Deborah. My aunt. Mom's older sister. The family oracle. She's the kind of woman who has 2 glasses of wine and starts comparing everyone to characters from Shakespeare. But she loved me. Always did. And she didn't mince words. "Jason," she said, breathless, "what the hell is going on over there?" I blinked. "You heard." "I saw, sweetheart. Your mother posted a photo of Rick sitting in your grandfather's chair, shirtless, with a caption that read, 'The new patriarch.'" I nearly choked. "She what? That man's nipples should be illegal. And don't get me started on the anklet." Apparently, Rick had been making the rounds on Facebook, posting weird rants about reclaiming ancestral energy and breaking generational trauma with erotic dance. He'd started tagging my mother in every single one. "I don't know what's happening, Deborah," I admitted. I told her he gave me bad vibes. That's it. And now I'm cut out of the will and blocked on everything. There was a pause on the line. Then, he moved in, didn't he? I sighed. "I think so." Deborah muttered something that sounded like insufferable penis man, and took a slurp of what I could only assume was Cabernet. "Listen to me, Jason," she said. "Something's off. Your mother's not like this. She's proud and paranoid with money. She once made me write a thank you note for a $5 Starbucks gift card. I know. It's like she's brainwashed." "She is," Deborah said flatly. "And I'll tell you how I know. Because Rick showed up at my house yesterday." I sat up. "What?" "He came to my house. In his little hemp sandals and his soul patches. He said he wanted to recalibrate the family dynamic. And do you know what he offered me? A coaching package. For $799 a month. To help me transition into my crone phase with power and grace." I burst out laughing. Not because it was funny, but because I had no other way to process it. "Did you kick him out?" "Are you kidding?" I sprayed him with the garden hose like a horny stray cat. Told him if he so much as tried to align my aura again, I'd align my foot with his third eye. I leaned back into the couch and sighed. I don't know what to do. She's completely cut me off. Like I'm the bad guy. There was a silence on the line. Then Deborah spoke with that slow, serious tone she only used when someone had cancer or got caught cheating during Scrabble. "Jason, have you checked her accounts?" That threw me. "What?" "She has investments. A trust. CDs. IRAs. She wouldn't just dump you from her will without moving money around. That's not how she operates. I bet my last box of wine that Rick is involved." My stomach sank. She was right. Mom was obsessed with security. We'd had dozens of conversations about estate planning. She once called Vanguard a safety blanket. If she really changed her will, she probably didn't stop there. That night, I barely slept. I tossed and turned, my mind churning with questions. Was Rick just a clinger? A scammer? Did he actually love her? Or was he playing some long con? And what kind of mother cuts out her only son over tofu and crystals? I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. So I did something I hadn't done since high school. I drove to her house in the middle of the night. Not to yell, not to make a scene, to look, to observe, to understand. When I got there, the lights were off. But Rick's stupid beat-up Subaru was in the driveway, plastered with bumper stickers that said things like, "Real men meditate," and "No meat, no master." The front porch had changed. Wind chimes, prayer flags, and a chalkboard sign that read, "Welcome to the Temple of Radiance." I felt sick. I wasn't just being replaced. I was being rewritten. I was halfway back to my car when I saw it, through the side window. In the living room. A whiteboard. Rick, standing in front of it. Shirtless again. Drawing arrows and circles. And at the top, in big block letters, "Assets, Stage 2 Transfer Plan." I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I didn't need to. Because on that board, underlined twice, was my mother's full name. And under that, Power of Attorney, in progress. I stood there in the dark like a statue, lit only by the pale glow of a street lamp behind me. Rick, in his usual half-naked glory, scribbled on the whiteboard like he was plotting a corporate takeover. I couldn't see the whole diagram, but I saw enough. Marianne Callahan in big bold letters. Power of Attorney in progress. And under that, title transfer. Title transfer to what, exactly? I backed away from the window slowly, my heart thudding in my throat, my mind racing with scenarios. The house? The accounts? Had she already signed something? Was he, Jesus, was he trying to get everything now, before she even died? It hit me like a gut punch. This wasn't just some flaky boyfriend drama. This was a ********************************************* heist. And my mom was too deep in Rick's incense-scented spell to see it. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in my apartment, lights off, chewing my lip bloody while I stared at the cracked screen of my phone and replayed the image of that whiteboard in my head. I didn't have access to her accounts. I wasn't on any power of attorney. She'd made that clear when she officially cut me out of the will. Legally, I was just some guy now. Her son by blood, sure. But in terms of paper, I had less authority than Rick's stupid Himalayan salt lamp. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called Deborah the next morning and told her everything. The whiteboard. The Stage 2 Transfer Plan. The whole cryptic, culty vibe. She didn't even hesitate. "We're getting a lawyer. But we don't have legal standing," I said, pacing in my kitchen. "We don't need standing. Not yet. But we can start documenting. If he's manipulating her, we need to prove it. Financial coercion. Undue influence. Elder exploitation." I didn't even realize I was clenching my jaw until I heard my teeth grind. "You think she's in danger?" Deborah hesitated. "I think she's vulnerable. And he smells the vulnerability like a dog smells blood." We met the lawyer that Friday. Her name was Samantha Pierce, a woman in her 40s with thick-rimmed glasses and a voice like granite. She'd handled probate battles, elder abuse cases, even a cult deprogramming lawsuit once. She didn't flinch when I described Rick or the whiteboard. In fact, she jotted down Mindset Alchemist without blinking and underlined it 3 times. "Here's the thing," Samantha said. "Your mother is legally of sound mind until someone proves otherwise. As of now, she has every right to name a skydiving raccoon as her heir if she wants to. But, if we can show a pattern of influence, especially financial, there's a chance we could intervene. Conservatorship, revocation of POA, even a civil suit for fraud or duress. And what would that take?" I asked. "Evidence," she said simply. "A lot of it." So that became my life. For the next 2 weeks, I lived like a spy. I scoured Rick's social media. He had 3 accounts, his main one full of shirtless affirmations and weird monologues in the woods, a business one, under the name Alchemy Unlimited, and a third under the handle at MoonDaddy444, which was mostly him tagging conspiracy theory accounts and reposting memes about chakras being colonized by capitalism. I dug into his online history. The guy had 3 bankruptcies, a defunct energy water company, and at least one Reddit thread accusing him of stealing from a former girlfriend's GoFundMe. I printed everything, created a folder, labeled it Rick, Suspected Cult Weasel. Then I started going to the house. I didn't knock. I didn't confront them. I just parked a few houses down and watched. Rick was always there. Always. He started gardening shirtless, of course, with crystals tied into the soil like he was summoning plant spirits. My mother followed him around, laughing like a teenager, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. Flowy scarves. Bangles. She looked happy, yes, but hollow, somehow. Like she was playing a role she didn't quite believe in. Then one night I saw them leave. Both of them. They got into Rick's Subaru and drove off. I waited. Gave it 20 minutes. Then I got out of the car and walked up the driveway. I don't know what I expected. Maybe the door to be unlocked. Maybe some kind of cosmic force field. But no, it was just a door. And when I checked the mailbox, I found it. A letter. From Vanguard. Addressed to my mother. It was half sticking out. I took a photo and slid it back in, untouched. But that was enough. I cross-checked the mailing address on the envelope with my mom's original investment profile. The mailing address had changed. It was now listed as care of Lancaster Enterprises, P.O. Box 808, Sand Valley. Sand Valley? That's a half-burnt ghost town outside of the city. I Googled it. There was no business registry for Lancaster Enterprises, but there was an Airbnb listing. A yurt, owned by Rick Lancaster. Price per night, $222. Title, Sacred Masculine Retreat Space, Womb of the Cosmos. I nearly gagged. Deborah and I brought the new findings to Samantha. She looked at the yurt, looked at the mail forwarding photo, and said, "This guy is consolidating. He's pushing her finances through himself. If she's forwarded official investment mail to his LLC or P.O. Box, we have a potential fraud case. But how do we get more proof?" Samantha leaned forward, steepling her fingers. "You talk to your mom." I blinked. "She won't talk to me." "Then you make her." My stomach tightened. "How?" Samantha didn't miss a beat. "You fake a medical emergency." I didn't love the idea. Lying to my mother, especially this version of my mother, felt like throwing gas on a wildfire. But Samantha had been clear. If she won't talk to you, you need to create a situation where she has to. Where Rick can't filter you. You get 5 minutes of her undivided attention, face to face. That's all we need. So, I sent the text at 7:13 a.m. the next morning. "Mom, it's Jason. Please don't ignore this. I'm in the ER. Something with my chest. I just wanted you to know, in case." And then I turned off my phone. I didn't go to the hospital. I sat in a diner across town, staring into a cold mug of coffee for 2 hours, wondering if what I was doing made me just as manipulative as Rick, wondering if she'd even come. At 9:41 a.m., I turned my phone back on. 3 missed calls. 1 voicemail. From her. She did care. Somewhere in that fog of turmeric and tantric breathing, my mom was still in there. I didn't listen to the voicemail. I didn't want to hear panic in her voice. I just texted back. "False alarm. I'm okay." It was anxiety. But, "Could we talk? Please. Just one last time." She didn't reply for hours. I went home, changed shirts twice, brushed my teeth like I was heading to court. Every knock at the door made me jump. Then, finally, at 3:17 p.m., I saw her car pull into my driveway. Alone. No Rick. She stepped out looking older. Not weak. Just different. Like the Mary and I knew was wearing a costume now, flowy linen pants, layers of beads clinking against her collarbone, giant sunglasses that swallowed half her face. But she looked tired. She stood at the door for a beat before I opened it. We stared at each other. Then she said, softly, "Are you okay?" I nodded. "Physically?" "Yeah." She stepped inside. The air between us was so thick it could have been cut with a steak knife, the irony not lost on either of us. She walked slowly to the kitchen table and sat without being asked. Like she knew this wasn't going to be short. I followed. Sat across from her. Folded my hands. "You lied," she said. I nodded. "I had to." Her eyes narrowed. "That's not how we raised you." "We?" I ignored the impulse to argue semantics. "I didn't know any other way to get 5 minutes with you that didn't involve me storming into your backyard like an insane person," I said. She sighed. "Jason." "No." I cut in gently. "Just hear me out." She looked at me, really looked, and something flickered. Recognition. Maybe guilt. I pulled out the envelope. The photo of the Vanguard letter with Rick's P.O. box. The printout of the Airbnb yurt listing. The image of the whiteboard, which I'd snapped through the window on Zoom. I placed each one on the table like evidence in a trial. She didn't touch them, but her expression cracked, just slightly. "Do you know what this is, Mom?" She didn't answer. "I know you think he loves you. I know you think he's different. But I'm telling you, he's done this before. Multiple times. He's a predator who talks like a prophet. Her lips pressed together. Rick is using you. She looked up at me, sharp. Don't say that. I have documents, photos, financial trails. He's rerouted your investment statements to his business. You didn't just change your will. You gave him access to your life. Silence. Then, almost too quietly, I asked him to help. What? She blinked hard. After you and I fought, I was alone and scared. I've been tired, Jason. Really tired. And he made me feel like I wasn't just Mom anymore. That I was me. That I mattered. My heart twisted. Mom, you've always mattered. She scoffed. Really? You made it pretty clear you think I'm a joke now. I never said that. You didn't have to, she snapped. You laughed at him. At me. Every time I wore something different. Every time I tried to change. You think I'm stupid because I stopped cooking meat and started doing yoga. Because I wanted to be happy. I swallowed. Hard. She wasn't entirely wrong. I didn't mean to make you feel that way, I said. I was just scared. Scared of losing you to someone who doesn't give a damn about anything except your bank account. That hit something. Her jaw clenched. Her fingers curled around the edge of the table. You think I don't know what people say? She whispered. Your aunt. Your cousin. Hell, the people at the church. They think I've lost my mind. Gone soft. Been hypnotized. She paused. But what if I chose this? What if, for the first time in years, I want to be someone else? I didn't know what to say to that. Because maybe she had a point. But then I said, wanting to change is one thing. Letting someone else take everything from you to define that change is something else. She didn't respond. She just stared at the printouts. Minutes passed. Neither of us moved. Then she stood up. I need time. I stood too. Okay. I'm not promising anything, she added. I know. She walked toward the door. Opened it. But before stepping out, she paused. I never stopped loving you, Jason. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Because if I opened my mouth, I was going to cry. And then she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her, and I just stood there in the silence, feeling like I'd just run a marathon with my heart. She was right. Maybe I had judged her. Too harshly. Too quickly. But I wasn't wrong about Rick. And as it turned out, neither was she. Because 3 days later, she showed up again. This time with her hair tied back in a bun. No beads. No bangles. No flowing pants. Just jeans and a hoodie that said property of Marianne in faded letters. And in her hand? A folder. One she handed to me without saying a word. Inside were legal papers. Revocation of power of attorney. Restoration of previous will. And stapled to the back? A handwritten note. I'm sorry it took me this long. You were right. He's gone. Love, Mom. Rick was gone. No grand farewell. No shouting match. No final attempt to charm or gild his way back in. Just gone. According to my mom, he packed up his Subaru in the middle of the night, leaving behind half a dozen sacred herbs, a cracked singing bowl, and a box of business cards that read Rick Lancaster, Quantum Wealth Guide. He didn't even leave a note. And thank God for that. If I'd read one more word of his spiritualized nonsense, I might have hired a priest and a lawyer just to exorcise the man from existence. But let's rewind, because the way it all unraveled was poetic. After my mom handed me that folder, she stayed for coffee. We sat in silence for the first few minutes, sipping like strangers who used to be family. Then she said, it started when he asked to borrow my car. I looked up. Your car. She nodded. Said his brakes were carrying ancestral trauma. He needed time to recalibrate the energy. I snorted. She didn't laugh. But then he started asking for access to the joint account. Just for emergencies. Then to add his name to the house, so the energy exchange between us was balanced. That's when I started to feel off. What changed? She smiled faintly. You lied to me. I blinked. That helped. She shrugged. Not the ER thing. That made me furious. But when I saw your eyes that day at the table, I remembered. You're the only person who's ever looked at me like I wasn't a symbol or a goddess or a project. Just me. Your mom. Her voice caught on the word. And I realized Rick never actually listened. He talked so much, but he never listened. She reached into her bag and pulled out a phone. Not hers. Rick's. He left it charging in the kitchen. Forgot to sign out of anything. I stared. Please tell me you didn't. Oh, I absolutely did. She scrolled, then turned the screen to face me. There were emails. Dozens. Conversations with other women. Ones he'd met through yoga groups, online forums, even a Facebook widow support group. Each one, the same pattern. Sweet talk, empowerment babble, business investments. All of them had sent him money. One woman mentioned selling her late husband's guitar collection to support the movement. Another referred to a wire transfer for a property in New Mexico. A third mentioned helping him with legal fees after the San Diego incident. We still don't know what that means. She reported everything. She didn't even flinch. Vanguard helped her revert her mailing address. Her bank froze the accounts briefly to ensure nothing else had slipped through. The house deed? Still in her name, thank God. The title transfer was in progress, but hadn't finalized. She'd stopped it just in time. We handed everything over to Samantha, who lit up like Christmas morning when she saw Rick's inbox. People go to jail for less, she muttered, snapping photos of the messages like a tabloid photographer. If we can prove a pattern of financial fraud across state lines, that's federal. We never got the satisfaction of seeing Rick arrested, but one of his former clients did file charges. Apparently, she found his listing on a site for spiritual retreats and recognized him from a Zoom seminar he'd billed her $900 for. She sent Samantha a long email titled, "The Fraudulent Tantric Bastard Who Stole My Rent Money." There's still a chance something will stick. Rick's probably back in whatever hole he crawled out of, selling salt lamps and telling people he dated Cleopatra in a past life. But this isn't about Rick anymore. This is about my mom. And me. It's been 6 weeks since she handed me that folder. 6 quiet, steady weeks. We're rebuilding. Not just trust, but the space between us. The weird, unspeakable distance that crept in long before Rick ever showed up. We go for walks now. She's back to wearing sneakers instead of barefoot earth shoes. She still does yoga, but she picked a new studio where the instructor doesn't try to sell you herbs out of the trunk of her car. She made steak last Sunday. I overcooked it, she said, laughing nervously. It tasted amazing. We don't talk about the will. Not directly. I didn't ask to be put back in, and she didn't say anything. But last week, she handed me a letter in an envelope with my name written in cursive. It was from her attorney. I didn't open it until I got home, but I knew what it was. Back in. Not because of the money. Not because of guilt. Because she trusted me again. And, truthfully, that meant more than any check ever could. The antique watch she once promised me, the one from my grandmother? It's sitting in a box on my bookshelf. She gave it back without saying a word. Just left it there next to my coffee mug and said, "You forgot this." We both knew I hadn't. But I didn't correct her. Because sometimes, rebuilding love doesn't come with grand speeches. Sometimes, it just shows up quietly. In little gestures. In slow forgiveness. In two people deciding to start over, not from scratch, but from truth. And if you're wondering what happened to Rick's Temple of Radiance porch sign, it's in my trunk. Right next to his damn singing bowl. One day, when I've had a few drinks and just enough spite in me, I'll take a road trip out to Sand Valley. And I'll leave it, right in front of his stupid yurt, with a note that reads, "Return to sender. With love, from the higher self you underestimated."